get back into it, and we have ourselves another Alekhine. And another knight c3 variation rather, like we looked at in game 1. And my opponent decided to go with d4. And to play an opening like the Alekhine, you need to have familiarity with a lot of structures and plans. There's a couple reasons why the Alekhine is not as popular as the big four: symmetrical king pawn, Sicilian, Caro-Kann, and French. It's because it's so different. Let's be honest. And in this case, I double the pawns, and I think a lot of players would want to go for a setup. So like a Slav or London system player, they want to play bishop f5, e6, c6, knight d7, bishop to e7 or d6, if I could arrows. But from experience with these types of positions and the Grunfeld, I like g6 because it's kind of counterintuitive because these pawns look strong. But bishop g7 followed by c5 at some point will undermine the structure and the diagonal will be very weak. So g6 is the best move. Bishop g7, and then finally we get in c5. At this point, the best move for white, best attempt, is bishop a3, where we get knight d7, followed by queen a5, and white's having to go backwards here. Bishop b2 was played in the game, and after queen c7, I am loading up on the d4 pawn, looking to remove the guard, and my opponent definitely, when he played h3, missed the idea on c takes d4, where I have the discovery on the bishop, and that's why he's opting to take with the double pawns. And from here, I feel like I should have just a one game. But I find my way into difficulties in just a few moves. So let's see if we can improve on my play. So c takes d4, knight d7, and ideally we would like to reach a situation where I can grab a bishop. So here, for instance, if queen takes e7, queen takes c4, queen takes d7, rook a d8, queen takes b7 is not a possibility because of the x-ray. And this is an ideal situation for black at this point. I've gotten rid of white's bishop pair, which is his only claim to fame in the position. So when he plays bishop b3, say, okay, e6, I defend this idea, try to make sure this pawn isn't going to be moving forward anytime soon. My opponent insists on it. Say, okay, queen f4, and this is where I got lazy, because this position is critical. My opponent's kingside pawn structure is wrecked. Keeping the queens on the board is logical and what should be done. But the move to play is a bit unnatural because he's hitting b7, and I don't want to just go back and admit wrongdoing, but queen h6 is definitely playable because on queen takes b7, you have to be able to spot this theme. And it was in my head because I played it later. Knight c5. We're working the pin in the position. So now when the queen moves, we can simply capture. And now the white king is wide open, and I'm feeling even better about our chances. So this is the key moment. And spotting that knight c5 tactical motif was essential. I did not see it. So I decided to trade, and with it goes my advantage. I see knight c5. My opponent plays f3, and I believe white already has... he's pretty close to an edge. I don't know if f3 was best. Yeah, you need to go e5 or something like that. f3 pitches it, and of course I missed knight d3 here, which was a strong move, and I start piling up on the pawn. And it was in this position I realized something went wrong when I'm having to play a move like a6, and I'm just like, okay, now I need to fish for my opponent to give me back the game, because taking on b3 is not looking like a good option at this point, because my experience with Grunfeld positions, if he can start getting runners and doing that, it's just not going to be a fun end game. So I'm kind of worried about that. And luckily I'm able to trade off that bishop and keep the knight on the board. The knight's going to be far more annoying here. So what my opponent should have done is slowly improve. There's not much that I can do. I mean, maybe knight b6, but man, what, rook c1? Not rook c1. Got to watch out for that stuff. Rook c2 maybe. So king f2, king d3, slowly improve. This is where patience is required. With d5 being played, now I'm starting to get counterplay immediately, and I'm back in the game. Takes, 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 check. So now we're back to it, and we have a critical position, because you need to start evaluating potential endgames. And the d-pawn is dangerous, but do we have enough in a 3 versus 2 situation? And also take into account that my time management has not been as strong as it typically is in this game, where I'm 40 seconds down to my opponent. So if time trouble starts to become a factor in the game, a bailout situation is necessary. If I can get rid of the d-pawn and, say, trade a set of rooks, I'm not losing this game. I can play fast. I don't have to worry about some tactical misstep. This pawn could cause it. So I start going after the pawn immediately. And it looks like I've just given away my a-pawn for no reason, but I'm assuring this guy can't move, and my king is going to approach. It's kind of helpful, the check getting me there. h6. Controlling key squares. Rook e5, and this was the idea that I saw when I gave away the a-pawn. And now at this point, I'm down to 30 seconds versus a minute. And I get the position that I was looking for. Now down to 21 seconds. Time to play a bit faster. Would you like to trade into the lost king and pawn endgame? No? Thought I would ask. And notice how at this point I'm losing a couple of tenths of a second each move. And do I have a particular plan in mind? I would like to get my rook here at some point to attack both pawns. So that's what I go for. My opponent allows another pawn to drop. So it's all about getting comfortable with playing these types of positions where you don't have a lot of time. And this is practice in and of itself, because I have a few players that I've worked with in the past that are adamant against playing flat 3 minutes. They're like, I only play 3-2, or I only play 5-3, or 10-5, 5-10, you know, something like that. Well, if you don't ever play flat out, sudden death time controls, that leaves a weakness in your game. You need to be able to work under time pressure, no matter how ugly the time pressure looks. Chess is getting faster, especially in the United States. The majority of games that are played are, I mean, a generation ago they would consider it rapid time controls, like weekend game 60s. So you need the skill to be able to play fast. You go, well, I get a 5-second delay in real tournaments. Okay. But if you don't practice the skill, you're going to lose games due to time pressure. So, how do you practice the skill? I would recommend playing more 1-minute games even. And a lot of chess instructors go, no, that's just terrible for your game. It doesn't help you with anything. But I honestly feel that to be a well-rounded player, you need to be able to play quickly. That helps with being able to place pressure on your opponent. A great player who shows that blitz skills can translate to classical chess is Alexander Grishuk. Watching his long FIDE time control games where he has the 30-second increment, it's nuts because he'll get down to having no time, and yet he will bang out those moves because he's such an excellent blitz player, and it's a skill. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen in FIDE time control tournaments with that 30-second increment, players are just stone-faced, ice in their veins, and they're making their move, they get their 30 seconds, say they have 33 seconds on the clock, and they will think for the entire 30, make their move with just 3 seconds, get their 30 seconds again. I've seen Grandmaster Akobian do that at the U.S. Championship playing games. You can probably find feeds on the St. Louis Chess Club channel of these types of moments where very strong grandmasters are in time trouble, and yet they are playing the game, they're focused, they're calculating, they're not freaking out. That's because they can play quickly, and it is a skill that you need to work on and develop. Don't avoid it. If it's a weakness, work on it.